Welcome back. The details. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi presided over two separate meetings on Saturday with Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli and a number of ministers discussing ways of supporting the agricultural sector. We have more details in the coming report.
President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi held two separate meetings on Saturday discussing ways of supporting the agricultural sector. The first meeting was held and attended by Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli, Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources Engineer Tariq Al-Mulla, Minister of Supply and Internal Trade Dr. Alim Salhi, Minister of Agriculture Dr. Said Al-Qasir, Major General Ahmed Al-Azazi, Head of the Armed Forces Engineering Authority, and a number of other top executives. Presidential spokesperson Councillor Ahmed Fahmi said the President gave his instructions to fully support the agricultural sector and the farmers and resume efforts to upgrade the agricultural system to encourage the cultivation of strategic crops. The head of state also asked the executives to quickly announce the prices of corn, soya beans and other oily crops with the aim of increasing the productivity of this type of crops, particularly those included in animal feed industry. The second meeting, which included the Prime Minister, Ministers of Agriculture and Supply, discussed efforts of production and provision of strategic crops. Fahmi highlighted that the President was briefed on the pace of work in a number of food security projects, especially those related to developing livestock to boost meat and dairy products productivity. The President also directed to intensify the usage of modern technologies in agriculture and genetic engineering and to make the maximum usage of scientific research to increase productivity and minimize costs.
On behalf of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry participated on Saturday in the 36th Annual Summit of the African Union held in Addis Ababa and due to last for 2 days. In his word before the gathering, Shoukry stressed Egypt's keenness to put the African climate changes of the continent as a priority in the world climate action. The minister, who shared in the world leaders and head of government's committee concerned with African climate change cause, reviewed the most imminent results of the COP27 held last November in the ritzy resort of Sharm el-Sheikh, on top of which is the establishment of the Loss and Damage Fund directed to support developing countries suffering from climate change and negative repercussions. Shoukry also pointed to the importance of approving the program of fair transfer of energy, which considers the different economic and social aspects of each country. The results of the COP27 also touched upon other vital issues like food security and environmental protection, asserting the fact that those results could never have been achieved without the support of African states and institutions. Meanwhile, Foreign Minister Shoukry asserted Egypt's full support of stability, peace and prosperity in Tunisia. This came during his meeting with Tunisian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Migration and Tunisians Abroad, Nabil Ammar, which was held on the sidelines of the 36th Ordinary Session of the African Union Assembly at the level of heads of state and government. In a statement, spokesperson for the Foreign Ministry, Ambassador Ahmed Abu Zaid, said that Shoukry congratulated his Tunisian counterpart on assuming his post, stressing the importance of continued action toward enhancing bilateral ties, as well as boosting consultations and coordination regarding issues of mutual interest. The ministers also discussed the Libyan file, pointing to the necessity of backing the constitutional course of the Libyan House of Representatives and the High Council of State to hold presidential and legislative elections. The Tunisian Foreign Minister, for his part, stressed the importance of Libya's security for the national security of both countries, highlighting the necessity of the full withdrawal of mercenaries and foreign gunmen from Libya. Secretary General of the Arab League, Ahmed Abul Gheit, participated on Saturday in the African Union Annual Summit, which is held for 2 days in the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa. During the inaugural session, Abul Gheit delivered a speech in which he stressed on the importance of promoting cooperation level between the Arab and African worlds. Abul Gheit also criticized the international community for abandoning its responsibilities to establish a two-state solution with the Israeli brutality to force the Palestinians to leave their homes. He also pointed out that the situation in Libya represents a top priority for all partners in the Arab and African countries, calling on all Libyan parties to resort to a peaceful political solution in order to reach the stage of political stability. Abu Ghait expressed his aspiration to exert efforts to support the Comoros stability and to enhance the plans for political and economic development launched by the country's president Azali Assoumani. The Secretary General affirmed the Arab League commitment to stand by Sudan to complete the transitional period through the framework agreement that was signed in December 2022. Moreover, Abu Ghait called for strengthening cooperation among the Arab countries to support Somalia in its fight against terrorism, consolidate the foundations of security and stability, and confront the devastating effects of drought. Meanwhile, a senior Israeli diplomat was on Saturday removed from the African Union's annual summit in Ethiopia as a dispute over Israel's accreditation to the bloc escalated. Images posted online showed EU security personnel confronting the diplomat during the opening ceremony of the summit before she left the auditorium. Eba Kalondo, the spokesperson for the African Union's Commission chairperson, said the diplomat had been removed because she was not the accredited Israeli ambassador to Ethiopia, the official who was expected. But Israel blamed the incident on South Africa and Algeria, two key nations in the 55-nation bloc, saying they were holding the EU hostage and they were driven by what they called hate. South Africa rejected the claim, saying Israel's application for observer status at the EU has not been decided upon by the bloc. Egypt and India have asserted their firm stance on denouncing all forms of terrorism, calling on all the United Nations member states to respect the UN resolutions on this score. The affirmation came at the third session of the Egypt-Indian Joint Working Group held in the Indian capital, New Delhi, with the participation of respective Egyptian and Indian officials. The Foreign Ministry said in a statement on Saturday that the meeting reviewed national experiments on combating terrorism and extremism. The two sides underscored the need to continue coordinating efforts to counter terrorism. Both countries also called on the UN member states not to provide any backing, including shelters, weapons, logistics, support, or crossing of the borders for terrorists.